Good afternoon or evening, everyone. My name is Tatiana. I am here with Jasmine from Poder Latinx. We are so sorry for the difficulties that we experienced on Instagram. Technology is a bit unpredictable, and while we wanted to do this live on Instagram, we were unable to, but we are happy that we're still able to meet today to talk about the issue at hand, which Jasmine is joining me here for. So thank you, Jasmine. We'll be chatting about how voting is connected to the climate, how voting is connected to the environment and environmental issues. Like I said, I'm here with Mi Familia en Acción. We are a civic organization dedicated to empowering and educating the Latino community to use their voice and to be engaged in their community, and just to increase their civic engagement. So Jasmine, if you want to go ahead and take it away and talk about Poder a little bit, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tatiana, for having us in Mi Familia en Acción. Like you mentioned, my name is Yasmin Moreno Dominguez. I am the environmental justice organizer at Poder Latinx, based in Phoenix, Arizona. Poder Latinx is a social and civic justice nonprofit here to empower the Latinx community with civic justice and civic engagement always in mind. It's a pleasure to be here today and to have this engaging conversation.
Yes, we're very excited. Mi Familia en Acción and Poder Latinx does a lot of similar work, just trying to empower the Latino community, and we do that through different focuses. Some of the focuses we have here at Mi Familia en Acción are democracy defense, education equity, environmental justice, and immigration justice as well. So those are our focuses four focuses that we have. And today we'll be talking specifically about the environment and how that is tied to voting.
We have a very, very exciting conversation. I think we should just go ahead and get started. And I will present the first question to you, Tatiana, which I have for you today. How is climate tied to voting?
Thank you for asking. That is a great question, because what we have kind of learned, and hopefully you've learned through your civic engagement journey, you guys watching this right now, is that voting is tied to everything that we do and experience is kind of a result of the voting decisions that we make, and that's no different when it comes to climate. Some of the biggest issues that we have with voting and climate, the biggest connection is just that the people that we vote for make decisions that impact our environment and the climate around us. For example, one of those big governing bodies is the Arizona Corporation Commission. They have jurisdiction over the quality of service and the rates charged by public utility companies. They have 5 seats on their board over there, and they serve 4-year terms. This year, for this November in the election, there will be 3 of them up for election in this cycle. And additionally, all elected officials, not just at the ACC, are part of the chain of making decisions when it comes to our climate. For example, we have the president, who you vote for president. Of course, we're not here to endorse any candidate or tell you anything specific like that, because we are nonpartisan, but that whatever candidate you choose, they do have an impact over the climate and the environment. And so just to learn a little bit more about those issues that we may be voting on or that may show up on our ballot, Yasmin, I'd like to pass it over to you and ask you, what environmental issues should we kind of have on our radar?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. It's important to always be informed and recognize what environmental concerns directly impact our life. So I want to first highlight asthma rates, because they are a direct result of our environment and of pollution here in Phoenix and all across the country. I want to inform the community that 8% of the Phoenix population, specifically 8% of the youth, have asthma rates. Conversely, 16% of Latino youth in the Maryville community suffer from asthma. So it's important to know that this is a great concern for the Latino community that we proudly serve, and also recognize that these asthma rates are a direct result of our environment, of industrial sites, of pollution, of cars, and recognize that it is directly impacting the health of our children. So that is one of the main concerns that I want individuals to take from this video, and recognize that the quality of life of our children is being severely impacted because of climate and because of matters of environmental justice, which is why it's so important to highlight the fact that we need to make a change and we need to vote to protect our children. I also want to highlight the issue of tree equity, which goes hand in hand with asthma rates, because as we know, trees are the air filters of our society. Trees are crucial to our neighborhoods, to our communities, and they truly provide such a beacon of light and air for us. And we also know that there are certain areas in our communities that don't have access to as many trees, while other cities and communities do. Historically, Latino neighborhoods do have less trees, and in turn, not only do they have poor air quality, which leads to the asthma rates, as I mentioned, but they also lead to warmer communities and a phenomenon known as the heat island effect. The heat island effect is a phenomenon where certain areas in an urban community are warmer because of the lack of trees and the amount of asphalt and concrete. And so while everybody is experiencing brutal summers and harsh environmental conditions, certain areas in certain towns inhabited by certain people are experiencing harsher conditions and warmer summers. So again, it's important to highlight that tree equity and the amount of investments in our communities, the amount of trees that are being planted, the amount of parks are all direct results of how we are voting. And are we actually letting our public officials know that we would like these investments in our community? So again, it's important to highlight how these all directly tie into matters of civic engagement. And then lastly, I want to briefly touch in the matters of extreme heat, because while it is something that we have become accustomed and we know that it is the norm here in Phoenix, Arizona, where both Tatiana and I live in, it is also a direct result of environmental justice and of climate change. You know, that 645 individuals died last year as a result of climate-related and heat-related illnesses. So it's important to recognize that this is something that is directly killing members of our community and is a result of voting patterns as well, which is why we have to go out and vote for investments that are going to protect the livelihoods and prevent individuals to continue dying in our brutal summers. And so investments such the IRA, which is a bipartisan bill, which is nearly $900 billion, invested trees, it's investing water in our communities, it's cleaning up our communities. And it's important to highlight that when we go out and vote or we vocalize the things that we want for our communities, public officials do act. And I think that the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, is a great way to highlight just how those investments are then turned into benefits for our environment here. But again, I really want 3 environmental concerns to be on the radar of everyone, being tree equity, asthma rates and air quality, and extreme heat here in Arizona.
Definitely. And I love that you highlighted just being civically engaged. I think a lot of times when we think of civic engagement, we mainly think of voting, but of course there are so many ways to continue to be civically engaged. And I think one of those ways, especially when it comes to the climate and the environmental crisis that we see ourselves in now, education is very important. It's very important to remain educated and to stay informed with what's going on in your community and what's going on in the state and also in the United States and the world. Some of these steps that you can take to be an informed individual, be an informed voter, is to stay up to date with your county resources. Here we are in Maricopa County, Yasmin and I are here in Phoenix, but whether you're from Florida, Texas, I know we have a lot of followers on our Instagram and just throughout all of our platforms that are from different areas throughout the United States. Look up what jurisdiction do I live in and what meetings are going on around me. That could be school board, that could be city council meetings, that could be council, like board of supervisors meetings for your county. There are plenty of opportunities to stay informed and be involved in your community that don't just include voting and don't just include going out. It could be as simple as just reading local news, or just staying informed on what's happening in your community so that you can be an informed voter when it's time to step into that ballot box in November. And so when you do step into that ballot box, I would like Yasmin to share with us, what are some of those benefits to vote for climate, as we would say?
Yes, that is such a great question. And again, it's important to highlight these benefits go directly to us as individuals and to our households. They're benefits that we can see for ourselves. I want to highlight that by voting for climate, we are voting for our health. We are voting for longer lives. The way that our cities are built, the air quality, the water quality, the conditions of our environment directly dictate how long we live and just how good the quality of life that we get to have. We know that there are some disparities between certain neighborhoods that have certain longer life expectancies. And so it's important to recognize that these are direct investments that come from policies that individuals vote for. And so if we would like a longer, more beautiful life, then we have to vote for policies that are going to protect our health and our livelihood. I know we are very quick to see these problems in our community and highlight the lack of trees and highlight the amount of concrete. But it's important to recognize that if we go out and vote, we can directly change those policies and in turn change our health. So I also want to highlight that by voting for climate, it leads to direct investments in our community. The historic bipartisan IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a near $900 billion investment into our country, is an example of how mobilizing, of how voting for certain policies directly invests into our community. This, initiative led to tree plantings, it led to electric school buses, rebates for solar installation, for so many electrification and modifications, and direct money into the hands of consumers that in turn also combat climate change. So it's important to highlight that change is possible, and elected officials do listen and they do go on and make these investments into our community that are incredibly, incredibly needed. At the end of the day, voting for climate is voting for our livelihood. It's voting for survival here, specifically in Arizona, as the conditions get more and more severe. So I do want to highlight just how important it is, and to recognize, I want us to sit here and think, how does the climate here impact our daily lives, whether you work outside, whether you'd like to go out for a run and realize that that's not possible anymore, whether you realize that children they can't play, outdoor in recess because it's so hot. I want us to recognize here how climate impacts us personally and take those thoughts and those feelings to the polls these upcoming elections to make sure that we're voting to protect all of our dreams and aspirations.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. With that being said, I think that before we bring you a little call to action and let you know just ways that you can keep up with us and keep up with climate issues in your area, I'd like to share some important dates when it comes to the elections. We are so close to gearing up to hitting that November date. If you are not registered to vote yet, if you or anyone you know is not registered to vote, and they will be 18 by November 5th, you can register online, you can register in person. You just have to find someone that is willing to help you, an organization like one of ours. There is the early voting deadline, which ends on October 29th. And then, of course, in-person voting is November 5th. So make sure that you are up to date on all the information provided by your county, and that you know where your polling location is, and you make a voting plan for November. With that being said, I'd like to pass it back to Yasmin to give us some information about how you can keep up with Poder Latinx and how you can keep up with any of the climate issues if you feel inspired after watching this video to continue working in climate and educating yourself on what's going on. Yasmin is more than happy to share some of those.
Yes, thank you so much for passing that torch. I first want to invite everybody to follow us on our social media, both Mi Familia en Acción and Poder Latinx. You can find us respectively on Instagram, on Facebook. It truly is one of the easiest ways to keep up with whether we're having community events or webinars such as these, or showing how we are in the community, educating them on matters of environmental justice. So truly, please give us a follow and keep up with us. We know that we're in a digital society, so it's the fastest way to get in touch with us. I also want to highly recommend everybody to keep yourself informed with things going on in the environment. And again, you can do this through our Instagram accounts. I know both of us constantly post, whether it's certain policies, legislation, or any initiatives, highlights and facts about environmental justice, but also just strike the conversation within your communities. Talk about this, talk about the environment, talk about tree equity, talk about climate. Start those conversations within your friends and your loved ones to begin this dialogue to start change. Also keep up with, government programs that, again, you can be seen through our accounts, and watch our debate parties where, again, we highlight the connection between civic engagement and environmental justice. So again, just want to highlight and remind everybody on the importance of voting. Go out and vote. Tell your friends and family to vote. Vote for our community and vote for our environment.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Thank you as well to Yasmin from Poder Latinx for joining us today and sharing all of her work and the specific research that she's done in the climate space. It was very informative. I know I learned a lot. I hope that all of you learned as well. Like she said, be sure to follow us on our social media accounts to stay up to date with different events that we do, different webinars like this one, and different opportunities that you can have to remain educated and increase your civic engagement. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.